Hello everyone, this is part 7 of What If Deku Married May, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Shinsu and Eri sat on a bench in one of the hallways, the latter trying to process the information on what had happened on the previous fight. Shinsu gave her a quick rundown of what went down, while also making sure to keep out any of the more disturbing details. Good lord, and that happened on live television? Eri asked, earning a nod from the insomniac. I'm glad you covered my eyes, but now I'm really worried. Shinsu shrugged. If it makes you feel any better, the one who got the bad end of the stick kinda deserved it. How can you say that? Eri snapped, glaring at Shinsu. Ashido lost an eye, an arm, and got her leg punctured. Yeah, Shinsu returned the glare. And Ashido also gave the hero killer Stain the idea to attack a support student, allowed him to enter the campus and put everyone in danger, injured a member of the hero course, almost destroyed said member's arm on her previous match, and is said to have injured one of her own classmates prior, as well. Eri's anger was slowly replaced by sheer, shocked amazement at what Shinsu had described. But, if she did all of that, why was she even allowed to compete in the festival? Getting the hero killer on UA should have been enough to ban her. Shinsu took a deep breath and lowered his head. It was a tough decision. When I snap my fingers, you won't lie during this entire interrogation. Shinsu snapped his fingers once, and Mina broke out of her entranced state to find herself in an enclosed room, with one of those one-way mirrors. Right in front of her were Eraserhead, homeroom teacher of Class 1A, Vlad King, same but for Class 1B, and Present Mike. And of course, right beside her was Shinsu, who promptly asked, were you the one who told Stain to go cripple a potential support course student? What kind of question is that? Mina snapped. Right before her eyes went blank and she spoke with a robotic tone, I gave him the idea that he could try attacking a support gadget maker, since those tend to help the fakers he seeks to eradicate. I never thought he'd go after a teenager. Did you feel any joy from these news? Vlad King asked sternly, as Present Mike pressed a button on an audio recorder. Of all the feelings that the news brought, shock and disbelief overpowered me for a long while. Mina's blank expression slowly transformed into a smile. But once I processed the information, and had Stain let me know that it was better this way, joy did come back, though it was mixed with a great deal of regret. Did you have any connection with any of his other crimes before his incarceration? Eraserhead inquired. Not really, I stayed behind on his house and acted like a housewife, cleaning the apartment, making food, that stuff. However, besides being taught how to throw knives and general knowledge on close combat, I wasn't involved with him. Wait, you lived with Stain? Yes, I did. As I said before, I took care of the house while he took care of faker hunting. One final question, Ashido, why did you decide to live with Stain? Vlad King lowered his eyelids. Surely, you had to have noticed the guy would be bad news. I was desperate. I was alone on the streets, starving, and scared. I would have decided to go live with anyone who would have given me the option. Present Mike pushed a button on the recorder, ending the recording, and Shinsu snapped his fingers as he said, turn back to normal, with Mina doing just that moments later. Wait, the pink girl tilted her head. What just happened? We got what we needed, Eraserhead calmly answered as Present Mike showed the recorder. A confession from you that, while not being enough to send you in jail, will pretty much get you expelled from UA, and at the very least some community service for bringing the hero killer on campus. And that's if they decide to go easy on you. Present Mike added. But you can't do that. If you do that, Mina's eyes slowly widened in realization. You'll lose the chance to get information on them. Eraserhead raised an eyebrow, and seeing this as her cue to explain herself, she reached for her back and took out some documents containing papers, baffling Shinsu as she explained. Stain told me about certain groups of villainous organizations, mostly to let me know who could potentially be one of their agents. And I'm willing to share this information with you, especially since I can't really lie anyway. Eraserhead narrowed his eyes. What's the catch? Oh, nothing major, it's just something I've always wanted to do. Mina twiddled her fingers. You see, ever since I was little brat, I always watched a peculiar event on the TV in order to calm myself down. And participating in it was one of the reasons I joined UA. Simply put. Mina turned back to the teachers and smirked. Let me participate in the sports festival. Absolutely not. Present Mike snapped. Keeping her around is one thing, but letting her participate in the most popular event of Japan is another. Mina snatched the documents back. Don't let me participate in the sports festival, and I'm not giving you any dirt on these organizations. How do we even know those documents have any information at all? Present Mike narrowed his eyes. You could be tricking us into letting you get close to hero students to cripple. Ugh, you give the hero killer the idea to do that to a support student and it's the first thing people expect you to do. Mina rolled her eyes and took out a paper from the document. Here, see for yourself. Eraserhead grabbed the paper and took a closer look at it. The paper consisted of information on what looked like a woman, wearing a black bird mask. Age, occupation, and crimes were all registered, as well as some potential hints on who her children could be. This is information on the head of the Shi-Hasaikai, isn't it? Eraserhead asked, earning a nod from Mina. How did Stain find out about them, let alone get this information? Simply put, he goes out often, and people who use villainous actions to make the world a better place is just as fake heroes in his eyes, Mina explained. Now, if you want the rest of the information, let me continue studying at UA, and participate in the sports festival. How do we know we can trust you? Raging bells were heard across the room as the teachers turned to see Shinsu shooting a glare at Mina, who slowly turned to face him and waited until the bells died down to smugly reply. Did you really think that would work on me again? Shinsu groaned. You little. Alright, Ashido, we got a deal. Shinsu and Mina turned to face Eraserhead, who narrowed his eyes as he added, but on one condition, until the sports festival happens, you won't take classes with Class 1A. You will stay in your cell, and we will teach you the subjects you would have studied otherwise. Wait, are you for real? Present Mike exclaimed. There's no way we're letting you anywhere near the hero course students after what you did, Vlad King sternly added. Are you listening to me? Furthermore, once the sports festival is over, you're out, Eraserhead added. No begging, no pleading, you're out of UA and what happens next will be up to you. Come on, guys, you can't be serious. This is a terrible idea. I have to agree with Present Mike, Shinsu said, clenching his fists. Letting a psychopath like her stay here, even if it's temporary, is but a small price to pay for the chance of knocking down some villainous organizations, Mina smirked. Right. Shinsu gritted his teeth and growled, but his anger was quickly replaced with disbelief as he saw Eraserhead shake hands with Mina, the boy exchanging horrified looks with Present Mike before he turned back to see Mina's disgusting grin. It took me a while to understand Eraserhead only did it because it was the best option, but still, my view on him took a hit that day. So, in short, they allowed her to participate just to get some information on some villain groups. Eri rolled her eyes and folded her arms. Well, now they see how that went down. I bet the documents they got were mostly bogus, too. No, they were completely accurate. Eri flinched and raised an eyebrow. What? You heard me? The information on the documents turned out to be completely true. Information on the important members, their headquarters, their latest operation. Shinsu lifted his head and sighed. Everything was true. But, why would she do that? Eri scratched her head. Surely, she could have just had one genuine document, have the rest be fake, and the results would have been the same. Ashido's a crazy bitch, but she's a crazy bitch who likes to put herself on a pedestal. I bet she figured that by giving the heroes genuine dirt on the villains, she'd make herself look better in comparison. Shinsu smiled. Little did she know that all she managed to do in the end was help UA be better prepared for when they deal with these groups. Eri scratched her chin. That's interesting, I guess, but what's going to happen now? If my intuition's right, the police will take care of Mina. No idea what'll happen to the Vine girl, though. Shinsu stood up. Anyway, we've wasted enough time. How about we go back to the stands so you can cheer on your boyfriend? Eri blushed and stood up too. Monetta's not my boyfriend. Shinsu pocketed his hands and snickered, not yet anyway. The insomniac guy lead the way, snickering to himself as Eri desperately tried to convince him that she and Monetta didn't have a romantic relationship. Guess you got more than you bargained for, problem child. At the infirmary, recovery girl watched over the unconscious bodies of Shiozaki and Mina when somebody knocked on the door 3 times. Come in. The door opened, and Midoriya and Hatsume entered, followed by Kirishima, Kaminari, and Bakugo. Sorry for barging in. You knocked the door and I gave you permission to enter. I don't think that counts as barging in, the miniature nurse responded. Also, if you came here to talk with the patients, I'm afraid you'll have to come back later, they're still unconscious. We're just here to see if they're okay, Bakugo remarked. Trust us, if I was here to give Pinky a piece of my mind, I'd need to be restrained by Deku, his girlfriend, and shit hair over here. Maybe Dumbolt too. Kaminari shot a look at Bakugo before he took a step forward. Is Shiozaki going to be okay? Recovery girl hummed. Well, yes and no. What do you mean, yes and no? Midoriya asked. My quirk only helps speed up the natural, physical healing process of the body. It doesn't affect any mental scars. Recovery girl frowned and lowered her head. So treating their wounds will be one thing, but there's no helping their mental states. They could go to therapy, just like what I did, Hatsume remarked. Unlikely. Pinky's part of my family, so she's probably too prideful to do something like that, Bakugo argued, ignoring the looks he got from his students. As for Tarzan, she doesn't seem like the kind of person who'd be willing to share what happened with a stranger. Then, the explosive blonde turned to Midoriya. If she's going to even humor the idea of therapy, it'll have to be with someone she knows and trusts. Everyone else turned to Midoriya, who scanned his surroundings before he realized the implication. Wait, me. Shiozaki and I aren't that close. You're friends, and that's good enough, Bakugo stated sternly. If you can find someone else to do it, fantastic, but just remember that Tarzan's not gonna take the therapy unless it's with someone she trusts. And also, Bakugo turned to Mina, narrowed his eyes, and took a deep breath before he bowed to Midoriya. I apologize for what Mina did to your classmates. Everyone in the room gasped and looked dumbfounded at the explosive blonde boy as he lifted his head, pocketed his hands, and stomped out of the infirmary. Did Bakugo just apologize? Kaminari asked in disbelief. And not even for something he did. Well, I can safely say that Mina wouldn't apologize for what she did, Kirishima remarked as he walked up to the unconscious, acidic girl. She kinda, never really apologized for anything back in middle school. Well, I have to go get ready for my match with Mineta, Hatsume remarked, placing a hand on Midoriya's shoulder. Izuku, could you come with me? Dude, did you just call him by his first name? Kaminari asked. Hatsume flinched, and without wasting any time, she grabbed Midoriya's hand, and the two bolted out of the room. Dang it, Midoriya's barely halfway through his semester, and he's already on first-name basis with a girl, Kaminari whined. Actually, those two have been hanging around for nearly a year, I think, Kirishima remarked as he went to Mina's side. They kinda remind me of Mina and I. But I've never heard her call you by your first name. Kirishima frowned. Yeah, truth be told, she's never done that. You have my condolences, dude. Kaminari scratched the back of his head. Sorry that my date beat her up so badly. Shiozaki's vines moved and slapped Kaminari. Ouch. I thought she was unconscious. And as Kirishima laughed, another duo entered the infirmary, this being the duet of Detective Scouchy and Inko, the latter who smiled as soon as she saw Recovery Girl, who thought. About time they came for her. I can't believe I made such a simple screw-up. Hatsume cried, pulling her hair. Now they're going to blabber about it to their classmates. Calm down, Hatsume. Kaminari and Kirishima seem like nice guys, they wouldn't blurt out something like that whenever they wanted, Midoriya replied, putting a hand on Hatsume's shoulder. Plus, even if they tried, Melissa would put a stop them in an instant. Hatsume stopped, and Midoriya did the same as she grabbed his hand, and gently removed it, her concerned expression finally getting Midoriya's attention. Midoriya, have you noticed something about the way we refer to each other? Hatsume frowned. Something that seems a little uneven. Midoriya paused and tilted his head. What do you mean? I've called you with both your first and last name, but you only ever call me by my last name. Hatsume snapped, startling the boy. And the fact that I sometimes call you by your first name, but you haven't done the same for me. I don't know why, but it really bothers me. I don't mean to make you upset, Hatsum. Midoriya blurted, causing the girl to pout. It's just, using someone's first name should be reserved for someone you think's special. You're dear to me. Hatsum's scream echoed across the hallways for a few seconds before she continued with her rant. You saved me from Stain. You helped me get used to the pink-hued vision I was stuck with until recently. And most importantly, you've given me the chance to make so many incredible babies. Midoriya blushed, and Hatsum rolled her eyes. Oh come on, Izuku, you know I'm talking about my gadgets and fuck, I did it again. Hatsum grabbed her hair and pulled hard as she finished. After all of that, and after I did as you asked and began calling you by your first name, it just feels so frustrating you haven't done the same. Sometimes I even wonder if I mean anything to you at all. With that said, Hatsum released her hair and sulked. She kept facing the ground for a while as Midoriya calmed down and frowned. I'm sorry. Midoriya blinked twice. That little fact had been bothering me for a long time, and I felt that if I didn't vent out now, I'd blow up during the finals or something. Hatsum twiddled her fingers. And you're the only one I can really talk to about this, partially because you're part of the problem, but that's besides the point. I'm at fault too, Midoriya sighed. You're dear to me, too, Hatsum, you really are. You've been a great friend, training partner, and even just talking to you from time to time helped me deal with some of my insecurity when talking to girls. Hatsum smirked. You're still pretty bad at it. But I was even worse before I met you. Midoriya smiled and lowered his eyelids. And sure, hanging around with the girls in my classroom helped, but you were the one who helped me in the first place. Then the boy raised one of his legs, and pointed at his boots. And of course, I can't forget this little baby you made for me. Hatsum gasped. You called it, baby. Oh, right, that's your thing, isn't it? Sorry, I'll drop it. No, it's fine, it's totally fine. Now, what were you saying? Oh right, thanks to these boots you made for me, I've been able to use my quirk without having to get angry every 5 minutes. If it wasn't for you, I'd have to go through the second half of the festival, practically quirkless. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I get the idea, Midoriya. Hatsum giggled. I still would like it if you called me by my first name once in a while. Then she turned around and folded her arms behind her back. I mean seriously, at this rate, I'm gonna have to force you to do it. Midoriya shook his head and snickered. Don't you have a match to get to? Could the next fighters head into the arena, please? Dang, saved by Present Mike's irritating voice. Hatsum chuckled. That's the end of this conversation, Midoriya. But we will continue another day. Hatsum. The girl turned around and raised an eyebrow. Good luck out there. The gadgeteer formed a smile and nodded. Thanks, Midoriya. On this corner. His wits and smarts proves that size doesn't matter. It's the support course's Minoru Mineta, everyone. Woo. Go, Mineta. Eri shouted. I still think you should have dressed as a cheerleader and gone down there, Shinsu teased, jabbing the girl's shoulder. Let him get a good look at what you're willing to do for him and such. Eri slapped Shinsu, who snickered in response. And on this corner, also from the support course. The Queen of Gadgets has descended down from her throne to put a peasant on his place. It's May Hatsume. As the audience cheered, Hatsum rolled her eyes and muttered, at least make Mineta a noble or something. Go, Hatsum. Midoriya shouted from his stand. Show everyone why you're the Queen of Gadgets. Dude, that's a nickname Present Mike came up with on the spot, Monoma pointed out. Don't be a buzzkill, Monoma, Kendo chided. Meanwhile, over on Class 1A's stands, Melissa stood up and raised her fist. Show everyone the might of an inventor, Hatsum. Before we begin the round, a couple new rules will be established. Midnight exclaimed. First of all, any attack with the intent to hurt or kill is prohibited. Performing any such attack will result in the disqualification of the perpetrator. Everyone sighed in relief at the rule. Secondly, taking into account the state of both Shiozaki and Ahasad, the tie from the last match has been declared a double knockout. Therefore, this will be the last one-on-one match of the tournament. Wait, what? Mineta exclaimed. This is the last one-on-one fight. Hatsum's eyes widened as she processed this information. If this is the last one-on-one brawl, then that means the next fight. Start. Hatsum flinched and gritted her teeth as she reached for her back and took out a small microphone, with Mineta doing the same moments later. Hey, wait a minute. They had gadgets hidden with them. Neja asked. How many more do they have? Is that even allowed? They're from the support course, it's their thing. Midnight argued with a laugh. I might as well allow it. Besides, that'll make things much more interesting. Hatsum smiled, and promptly raised her arms as she spoke. Ladies and gentlemen, it's quite a pleasure to meet all of you today. We got quite a showcase of gadgets coming up for all the world to see. Mineta continued. So if you could be nice enough to sit still and look agape at our creations, we'd greatly appreciate it. Midoriya and Melissa laughed at the comment, while everybody else just stood dumbfounded at what was happening. Even Present Mike and Midnight were speechless as Hatsum spoke. Now, to begin this little showcase, Hatsum reached for her back once more, and took out two small rocket-like gadgets. I present you, the Hatsu boosters. Hatsum put the little gadgets on the side of her shoes, and pressed them, causing her to zoom towards Mineta as she continued. With these magnificent babies, you will quickly clear the distance between yourself and your enemies before they even notice. Mineta flashed a smile as Hatsum reached for her back with her whole arm. And right after that comes the Hatsu fist. Hatsum took out her arm, now enveloped in an arm brace almost identical to the arm brace Melissa invented, only silver. She then raised the arm brace and swung it down just as Mineta jumped away, the brace connecting and shattering the ground. Based on strength-enhancing quirks, the Hatsu fist allows someone to throw a punch that's twice as strong as the average one. It's strong enough to even crack cement. All without injuring the user's own hand. Wait a minute, an arm brace that can unleash strong force without hurting the user's hand. Isn't that the same thing I built for myself? Melissa scratched her chin. But I never showed the thing to Hatsum, did I? No, I didn't, right. At least you keep your thoughts to yourself. Melissa flinched and turned around, seeing Bakugo staring at the fight with a stern expression. If you and Deku swapped places, he'd be muttering up a storm. Oh, well, Melissa sheepishly smiled. I guess I wanna keep the muttering for gadgets. Bakugo eyed the blonde inventor before he slightly nodded. It's an improvement. Not a big one, but an improvement nonetheless. Is she seriously going to do a sales pitch for her gadgets now? Monoma asked incredulously. Well, she did tell me she was gonna do it eventually, Midoriya chuckled, scratching his chin. And if there's a good time to do it, why not with another member of the support course? Still, this feels like such a shift from the last match, Kendo spoke. Not that that's a bad thing, but still. Midoriya nodded at the statement, and the instant he remembered the previous fight with Shiozaki and Mina, an unnerving chill went down his spine. Even if he was one of the people who wanted to see Mina get her comeuppance, he still quaked in his boots at the thought that Shiozaki of all people would deliver such a brutal punishment. But that was something he could think about later. For now, there was a sales pitch disguised as a fight to watch. Those are some nice inventions you got there, but I too have some tricks up my sleeve. Mineta proclaimed as he crouched down. Presenting. The boy pushed a purple button on the side of his boot, and its purple underside expanded, revealing a pair of balls underneath. The mine bounces. Using the ball's bouncing properties, the boy took a huge leap into the sky, bouncing up and down all over the arena as he explained. With just a push of a button, these customized boots will allow their user to bounce all over the place, avoiding their enemies' attacks while confusing them all the same. Hatsum quickly ran up to where Mineta was falling to and prepared to throw another punch. And if you're about to be blindsided by an enemy attack, no problem. Mineta pushed a second, different purple button, and the balls detached, sending Mineta up again while sending the underside straight into Hatsum's face. With a simple push of the secondary button, the underside will send you propelling away, while the underside acts as a projectile to strike your enemies with. Hatsum giggled like crazy as the underside fell and hit the ground with a loud thud. I totally didn't see that coming. Then, she smirked. However, activating the Hatsu boosters once more, Hatsum closed the distance between her and Mineta and reeled back the Hatsu fist. You're not getting away that easily. Mineta smiled, reached for his back, and took out a purple circular shield-like object he mounted on his shoulder, just in time to block the attack. Nice try, Hatsum, but you've fallen right into my trap. Mineta proudly answered. You've hit my mind children instead. Hatsume raised an eyebrow. Shieldron. A mix between a shield and a pauldron. Mineta explained. By equipping the mind shieldron on one's shoulder, not only do they get to block an attack, but the gadget began glowing purple, and Mineta smirked as he pushed a purple button. With the push of a button, it can send the force back. An intense gust of wind sent Hatsume flying back, though she luckily managed to stop short from landing over the boundary. Once that was over, Hatsume flashed a cocky smile before she and Mineta ran towards each other, unleashing gadget after gadget at each other. Hatsu Web, Mine Cutter, Hatsu Bomb, Mine Wind, Hatsu Piercer, Mine Wall. They're not taking this seriously at all. Melissa and Midoriya thought in unison, both trying to hold back their laughter. Hey, Mineta, when are you going to take it out? Hatsume asked as she was sent back once more. The invention you used fighting the hardening guy. Mineta smirked. I dismantled it. Hatsume's eyes widened. You what? I knew that after showing my invention, you'd get an interest in making something to counter it, so I dismantled it during the time between that fight and this one. Mineta folded his arms. I used the parts that remained to create the mine boots. Dismantling your own invention and recreating it into something entirely new. Hatsume recapped in shock, before she got the widest, proudest smile she'd ever put on. Amazing, Mineta. You definitely earned your place in the support course. I'm flattered you think so. Mineta reached for his hair and began pulling his balls out. Now let me make you more proud by beating you. The purple dwarf shot some balls to the ground, and began jumping from ball to ball until he was close enough to push Hatsume out of the boundary. At least that was the plan, but he instead wound up falling into something. All he knew is that it was pitch black inside, with light only coming from a small circular exit on the ceiling. Presenting the Hatsu Cannon. Wait, what? Don't let its bulky design fool you. This baby is lightweight enough to be mounted on one's shoulder. Mineta crawled up the darkness until his head popped out of what he assumed was Hatsume's gadget. He looked around as Hatsume continued. And not only that, it can shoot anything from small projectiles, to even a small human. And all with the push of a button. Mineta couldn't even verbalize his shock before he was shot out like a human bullet. As he flew off into the beyond the boundary, and into his inevitable loss, he noticed something about Hatsume. She smiled proudly at the boy, and was giving him a thumbs up with a wide, sincere smile. Mineta smiled back, and returned the thumbs up as he hit the ground, and rolled off until he hit a wall. Mineta's out of bounds. Hatsume goes to the next round. The audience roared with cheers as Hatsume jumped off the arena and ran up to the purple dwarf, who got up and dusted himself. Are you okay? Hatsume asked, dropping the shoulder cannon to the ground. Sorry that I took away your moment with the Hatsu cannon. Are you kidding me? Being shot out of that thing was amazing. Mineta shrugged. Although, I would suggest adding a secondary mode in order to keep the villains trapped. I mean, if I could crawl out, anybody could. Interesting proposal. Hatsume scratched her chin. How about we give it some upgrades when we have the time? Mineta flashed a thumbs up once again. I'd feel honored. And that concludes the quarter-finals, everyone. Present Mike interjected. Now, normally we'd have the semi-finals next and then the finals. But as Midnight pointed out, Shiozaki and Ashido have been both knocked out, leaving an uneven number of participants remaining. Neja added. And you know what this means. You do right. I'm not the only one who doesn't know. This means, for the first time since the Years of All Might, the sports festival will end with a battle royale. The audience shot up in cheer once more, while Midoriya, Yaoyorozu, and Hatsume all reacted to the announcement with shock and excitement. In Hatsume's case, though, there was also a mix of worry. 1. Izuku Midoriya vs. Mei Hatsume vs. Momo Yaoyorozu. The more she looked at the match in the board, the harder it was for Hatsume to believe it was real. She expected a couple of possibilities for the final battle. Midoriya would fight Mina, or maybe he would fight Hatsume, or maybe Midoriya wouldn't even be part of the final fight, and that the final fight would be between her and Yaoyorozu or something. She didn't expect a three-person battle royale. And so, she did have to deal with the big three and Melissa for the second event to even get to the tournament, but in that case she only had to deal with one of the big three, and she didn't even fought him. Now, she had no choice. She had to fight not only Midoriya, the guy who's been a crutch for her for months, but Yaoyorozu, who had the clearly unfair advantage of having both a mutation that let her fly and a quirk. Sure, she couldn't use them both at the same time, but there was a high chance she would manage to do just that during this fight. And that would most certainly be the end of her. Wait, Mina told her about how Yaoyorozu worked, right? Yeah, she said how she had hollow bones and had a lean frame, but with places with greater mass or something that made her quirk somewhat useful. And then, a sudden memory resurfaced. But I wonder, would you be able to hurt him? Hatsume's eyes widened. Was this possibility what Mina was talking about before? Sure, there was no way she would know for sure there would be a three-way fight between them, but... Yo, Hatsume. The pink-haired gadgeteer turned around, and was met with Midoriya's little smile. It wasn't much, but it helped her calm down slightly. Don't scare me like that, Midoriya, please. Sorry, but I wanted to see you before the fight started, Midoriya's smile faltered. It's crazy to think we'll be fighting each other, right? Each other and me. The duet turned around, and nearby came Yaoyorozu, arms folded behind her back as she looked at the pair with a red glance. Yaoyorozu, actually, now that you're here, we can do something, Midoriya folded his arms. Before the battle starts, I think we should make a deal. I never thought I'd see the day you would actually say something like that, Midoriya, Hatsume smirked. But I'm interested. What's the deal? And how are we going to do this, exactly? Yaoyorozu asked as she raised an eyebrow. There's three of us, and only one can win. That's exactly how we'll do it. We make a deal for when one of us wins, Midoriya put his hands on his hips. For example, if I win, you, Yaoyorozu, will drop this entire thing with me becoming your mate, and we'll go find someone else. And what about Hatsume over here? Yaoyorozu narrowed her eyes. It's not fair that only I get a punishment while she gets scot-free. True. Midoriya snapped his fingers. I know. If I win, Yaoyorozu will do what I just established, and Hatsume will give me ideas for a new hero costume. That sounds more like a reward to me, Hatsume giggled. And also, why are you planning to change your hero costume? Midoriya scratched the back of his head and sighed. The truth is, after everything that's happened and compared to my classmates' costumes, I just feel like mine was made from scraps. And it was. Mom made it in order to compensate for not supporting me all those years, and I did like it at first. Now, though, you think it's time you give it an upgrade, understand? Hatsume remarked with a little nod. But why ask me and not a support company? Midoriya smiled. Because I want to give you a challenge. Hatsume gently pinched the boy's cheek. You know how to bring a smile to my face. The pair laughed for a little bit while Yaoyorozu glanced at them, her expression souring and growing angrier until she got between them and separated them. Now for my terms, if I win, you, Midoriya, will become my mate, no questions asked. And Hatsume will give up any and all pretense of a romantic relationship with you. Hatsume narrowed her eyes. Alright then, if I win, you will leave Midoriya alone, and focus on getting a mate from your own class, no ifs or buts. And Midoriya. Hatsume smirked. Will call me by my first name. The winged duo gasped. Oh yeah, I went there. So you made good on your promise after all, Midoriya extended his hand forward. Anyway, now that we've all given our terms, do we have a deal? Hatsume put her hand over Midoriya's, and after a little bit of hesitation, Yaoyorozu joined in as well. The trio shook hands, gave each a nod, and promptly separated to go their separate ways to the arena. Hatsume and Midoriya, of course, went together, while Yaoyorozu left on her own. Izuku. The pink-green pair stopped and turned around, immediately seeing Inko running up to them while waving her hand. Mom. Hi, Izuku. Inko chirped as she reached the teenagers. Are you getting ready for your big match? Yes I am, but what are you doing here? Midoriya raised an eyebrow. Weren't you going to watch the sports festival from home? I was, but then I was informed that the jerk known as Mina Ashido was participating. Inko narrowed her eyes and folded her arms. As soon as I received the news, I couldn't sit still. So I called one of my coworkers, we got the arrest warrant, and we came here as soon as we could. Right, I forgot you work as a detective. Midoriya folded his arms and looked at the ceiling. I still find it weird you decided to become a detective after leaving the support business. Wait, she left it. Hatsume raised an eyebrow. From the way she helped Melissa with my eyes, and the other gadgets I've seen, I thought she was still working with support. No, those were special occasions. The truth is, I quit the gadgeting game a long time ago, due to personal reasons. Inko pocketed her hands. Now I work as a detective to put my smarts to use. So, Izuku got your smarts, huh? Hatsum asked, throwing a sly look at the greenet. Yup, and everything else he got from his father. Inko frowned for a brief moment before regaining her composure. Anyway, Scouchy has taken Ashido into custody, and he told me to stay behind to watch the final match. Midoriya smiled. That was nice of him. But, well, we gotta get going, Mom. I understand, I have to get going to the stands too. Inko scratched the back of her head. Maybe if I run fast enough, I'll get a good seat in the front row. The Midoriyas chuckled for a moment before separating, with Hatsum eyeing their separation with a neutral expression until Midoriya noticed her. Is something wrong, Hatsum? The girl returned to reality, formed a smile, and shook her head. Nothing, let's go. Hatsum led the way to the arena, and after a moment of hesitant concern, Midoriya followed her. Yaoyorozu scratched her chin as she thought about what to do in order to win the incoming fight. She could always just throw Midoriya and Hatsum out of bounds, but as their previous fights proved, that would definitely be easier said than done. Furthermore, there was also the matter of her father. Momo, speak of the devil and he doth appear. Yaoyorozu stopped on her tracks and turned around to see Hawks approaching her slowly, hands pocketed in his coat. Dad. Hawks flinched at the girl's harsh tone of voice, but quickly regained his composure and took a deep breath. Listen, Momo, I know you must still be upset after our last argument. But, I just want you to know that you only want what's best for me. Yes, I know. Yaoyorozu looked elsewhere and pouted, spreading her wings as an act of intimidation. You tell me the same hollow words every time, Dad. Hawks frowned. You think my words are hollow? Yaoyorozu's wings retracted a bit. Not so much your words as your reasoning. You've never told me why you wanted to clip my wings, or why it was the best for me. You just said so, and I can't accept that. Hawks lowered his head and pocketed his hands. Your mother. Yaoyorozu raised an eyebrow, prompting the man to explain. When your mother gave birth to you, she put a big emphasis on the fact you had wings. Everyone in the hospital, including myself, figured this was the result of your quirk, but your mother thought otherwise. She thought it was a simple inherited mutation, and that your quirk would appear when you became 4. Yaoyorozu put a hand over her chest, feeling it tightening, for some reason. So, she began micromanaging your every move. Where you would go for kindergarten, what lessons you'd be taught at home. She even got one of her goons to watch you when you came to visit my agency. Those visits were always the best. Yaoyorozu smiled. But, what are you trying to get at, here? Momo, your quirk is incredible, but just as it can solve a lot of problems, it can also create them if it ends up in the wrong hands. Hawks scratched the back of his head. What I'm trying to get at, is the reason I want you to clip your wings is. Hawks took a deep breath and confessed. I was worried that your mother would see you as a tool if you kept both the wings and the quirk. Yaoyorozu's eyes widened. But, if that was the reason, why didn't you just tell me about it? Hawk's turn came right afterwards. Wait, you believe me? Well, I don't have a reason not to, Yaoyorozu shrugged. But for the sake of argument, let's just say I'm considering believing you. Well, to answer your question, telling a child that one of their parents wants to use them because of their powerful quirk isn't something easy to say. Hawks scratched his cheek and smiled sheepishly. Besides, I have to admit, thinking before doing anything has never been my forte. Yaoyorozu rolled her eyes. Reminds me of one of my classmates. So, anyhow, that's the reason why I want you to clip your wings, Hawks added. Do you believe me? Yaoyorozu hummed in thought for a moment, tapping her cheek as she tried to reach a conclusion. The situation felt like it should have been easily solved with yes or no, but still. I got a fight coming up, and I need to keep my focus on that, Yaoyorozu replied. I'll tell you what I think after the fight, alright, Dad. Hawks simply nodded once, and he stared silently as Yaoyorozu left, waving her hand slightly. Alright, everybody. You've waited long enough, Neja excitedly proclaimed. It's time to begin the final fight. The audience cheered as the trio finally reached the arena, and they began stretching in preparation for the upcoming brawl. On this corner, the sun wasn't hot enough to melt his wings. Is there something in this universe that can bring his onslaught to a halt? It's the rising star of Class 1B, the unstoppable force, Izukumidoriya. Go, Midoriya, Monoma exclaimed. You're this close to bring Class 1B to glory. Don't let us down. Kendo jabbed Monoma in the neck. Never mind him, Midoriya, just do your best. Versus. An enthralling voice couldn't stop her. A fellow gadgeteer couldn't stop her. And if she had fought her, even the devil herself wouldn't have managed to slow her down. The immovable object from the support course, May Hatsume. Hatsume. The pink-haired gadgeteer turned around, and she had to hold back her laughter at what she saw, Mineta standing on top of his chair, wearing a cheerleader outfit and moving his pom-poms around. As he did this, the rest of the courses looked dumbfounded, except for the shocked duo of Shinsu and Eri. Give it your all. Ha, he's actually wearing a cheerleader outfit, Shinsu blurted. If he can do it, I can't see why you can't, Eri. Eri clenched her fist and punched Shinsu right in the gut. And for the final opponent. She's proven to have quite a few tricks up her sleeve. Will this final battle convince her to go all out and become a force of nature? The Void of Creation, Class 1A's Momo Yaoyorozu. Yeah, Yamomo. Uraraka chirped. This is the final hurdle. Throttle to the finish. Give it your all, Yaoyorozu. Melissa shouted. Why are you cheering for Rich Witch? Bakugo asked dumbfounded. Shouldn't you be cheering for Sniper or Deku? Was that the second or third nickname Bakugo's given Hatsume? Either he has trouble picking just one, or something else is going on. Melissa thought before responding with a smile, Midoriya and Hatsume might be my friends, but Yaoyorozu's my classmate. And, to be honest with you. Melissa turned back to the trio, and folded her arms with a smile. She's gonna need as much luck as she can get. Alright, I want a good, clean fight. You already know the rules. No attacks with the intent to kill allowed, and if you're either knocked out or thrown out of the arena, you're out. Midnight recapped. If you got all this, then let's start. Yaoyorozu spread her wings and flew up high, with Midoriya activating the boots to follow after her. However, just as he began to fall down, Yaoyorozu flew straight to him and grabbed him in a tight hug. Nice try, Midoriya, but I know how your quirk works. Yaoyorozu scanned the ground. Now, where can I put you? Yaoyorozu didn't get much time to think about it, since Hatsume promptly appeared right near her, getting ready to throw a punch. Oh, not this time. Yaoyorozu spread her left wing to hit Hatsume, and she wound up hitting a pauldron-like gadget she had on her shoulder. Then, the gadgeteer pressed a pink button on the side, and a gust of wind struck the black swing girl hard enough to not only send her flying back, but release Midoriya, who summoned his wings just as he and Hatsume fell. One of Mineta's inventions. Partially, I reverse-engineered his design and made it my own. Yaoyorozu growled at the sight of Midoriya and Hatsume together, and she brought her flight to a stop to generate a lasso from her stomach, which she took out and swung as she flapped her wings once again. Midoriya and Hatsume were trapped in the lasso, and Yaoyorozu took the chance to swing it directly towards the grass. However, Midoriya spread his wings and this was enough to snap the lasso in two. He grabbed Hatsume with one arm while grabbing what remained of the lasso with the other, engaging in a pull-the-rope deal with Yaoyorozu before he gained enough strength to send her flying towards the grass instead. Yaoyorozu quickly reacted, though, by creating a blade from her stomach and using it to cut the lasso in two, resuming flight moments before she touched the grass. With that done, Hatsume and Midoriya landed back at the arena, the latter's wings dissipating as he threw a look at Yaoyorozu, who responded with an even more intense glare. Whoa everybody. It seems that this three-way battle has devolved into a tag team. The immovable object and unstoppable force have teamed up together to face the void of creation. Well, if you think about it, an unstoppable force and immovable object facing each other would be a big pain to figure out. And this is way more interesting. But of course, what will the referee think of this? Midnight glanced at Yaoyorozu as she held her spot in the sky, and then she turned to see Hatsume and Midoriya looking at her, while unknowingly holding hands. Seeing the latter made her decision much easier. I'll allow it, but once one of you three is taken out, no matter who, we proceed with a one-on-one battle, got it? Hatsume and Midoriya nodded, and the battle resumed soon afterwards. Yaoyorozu dived straight for the duo as she coated her right arm in a white light. Hatsum jumped in front of Midoriya and put her, Hatsu Shieldren, in front, but all Yaoyorozu did was smirk at this. Once close enough, Yaoyorozu threw a right punch, her arm now equipped with metallic armor. Not only did the resulting punch turn out to be strong enough to nearly send the duo out of the arena, but the Hatsu Shieldren released sparks before collapsing apart into pieces. No way, Hatsum grimaced. That punch was strong enough to destroy the Hatsu Shieldren. Well, how much power could it hold before being destroyed? Midoriya asked. Hatsum hesitated, and scratched her head. Let's just say we should make sure we don't get hit by it. This was soon followed by Yaoyorozu running straight for the duo as she undid the armor in her right arm, and reached for her stomach. Not wasting any time, Hatsum equipped her Hatsu boosters and shot forward while Midoriya pressed his boots to take off to the sky. However, Yaoyorozu once again smirked at this as she sidestepped Hatsum's incoming rush, and she took out a whip from her stomach, one long enough to catch Midoriya before he could get out of her reach. You're not spreading your wings that easily again. Hatsum stopped short of the borders of the arena, and as soon as she saw Yaoyorozu holding Midoriya in place, she turned around and removed the Hatsu boosters, and pressed their buttons to send them flying straight for the Black Swan girl's head. They successfully hit her and Yaoyorozu let go, allowing Midoriya to fall and activate his wings. From there, Hatsum and Midoriya headed straight for Yaoyorozu, the former getting ready to use the Hatsu fist, while the latter sacrificed one of his wings to surround his arm with a white energy. As for Yaoyorozu, she glanced at the two of them before she created a smoke bomb from her stomach and threw it to the ground, surrounding the three in a smoke cloud. Once the smoke cloud dispersed, it was revealed that Hatsum and Midoriya had thrown the punches, but they wound up hitting each other square in the cheek, with Yaoyorozu crouching down until she opened her eyes and spread her wings, hitting the duo hard enough to send back a couple feet. Midoriya rubbed his cheek and spat out a tooth, while Hatsum did the same, and realized she couldn't close her right eye. Not only that, but her vision from that eye was severely messed up, static flashed constantly while the few snippets of the world around her got color, only to go monochrome and back again, and that's if they lasted long enough to turn to static. Oh man. After working together to beat Yaoyorozu, Hatsum and Midoriya have been tricked into hitting each other, and what a hit. This isn't going to turn into a fight similar to the Shiozaki and Ashido one, right? Neja asked fearfully. I don't want to see something like that again. Hatsum didn't waste any time before she grabbed the faulty eye, and ripped it clean off, causing the audience to gasp as she wobbled a little, but regained her composure quickly enough. It was at this moment that Yaoyorozu frowned with regret, and Midoriya's protective instincts took over. His eyes slowly became completely orange as he shot a furious glare at Yaoyorozu, and bared his sharpened teeth. Izuku. The boy flinched and turned back to Hatsum, who gave him a reassuring smile and a little nod. However, while Thea clearly meant to tell the boy she was okay, there was also a hint of something else. A hint of Hatsum asking Midoriya to win this fight with her. Together. Midoriya's eyes went from completely orange, to a normal shade of white, with orange pupils reappearing soon afterwards. And, without any wait in between, he clenched his fists as he got surrounded by a white aura, and spread his wings once more. And like last time, they didn't vanish as the holy shit, abs, Hatsum exclaimed. Abs indeed, as the transformation had caused Midoriya's shirt to tear into pieces, revealing his lean, muscular frame. He wasn't a bodybuilder by any means, but he was much more muscled and toned than would be expected from a boy his age. As for the rest of his form, it was the same as the first time he transformed: white messy hair, orange glowing eyes, and a pair of wide, majestic swan wings from his back. This time, however, his skin remained a normal tone, with his forearms and hands coated in a white, glowing energy. Well, would you look at this? Izukumidoriya has seemingly evolved his quirk and become a muscular swan-winged high schooler. That was a sentence I never thought I'd say, folks, but hey, this is UA. I see, so you're finally going all out, huh? Yaoyorozu remarked as she stood up and stretched a bit. Well then, if you're finally using all you got. Yaoyorozu spread her wings and sprung to the skies. I'm going to give it my all as well. Once high enough, Yaoyorozu stopped in midair and got surrounded by a white energy. She covered her body in her wings before she spread them once more, revealing her physique had become more petite compared to her earlier self. And then the light surrounding her dissipated and reformed around her as several, fairly small spheres of light. With a snap of her fingers, the spheres transformed into ethereal feathers, each aimed directly at the arena below. And YAOYOROZU decides to go all out as well. Sacrificing her bombastic figure for an all-out attack. Can HATSUME and MIDORIYA find a way out of this? Hatsum looked at the incoming rain of feathers and grimaced, only to feel a warm sensation next to her. This warmth came from Midoriya, who offered his hand with a little smile. Returning the smile, Hatsum accepted, just in time for Yaoyorozu to shoot the arrows down at them. Midoriya spread his wings and flew up with Hatsum by his side, dodging each and every feather that was shot at their way. However, the rain of feathers was soon accompanied by a different rain, one of white lights that was heading up instead of down. And judging by Yaoyorozu's form being surrounded by light once more, it became clear what the light was about. She's taking back the lipids. Hatsum exclaimed. She won't get to use them again. Midoriya answered. Once high enough, Midoriya and Hatsum flew right above Yaoyorozu, whose light-coated form returned to its original physique as she looked up, and saw Hatsum, reeling back the Hatsu fist, and Midoriya, doing the same with his glowing fist. Yaoyorozu brought her black wings in front of her, hoping to block the attack. However, with the combined forces of the Hatsu fist and Midoriya's swan-powered punch, Yaoyorozu was sent crashing on the ground hard enough to shatter the very arena into pieces. Midnight walked close to the Black Swan girl as Midoriya and Hatsum flew back down on a slightly less cracked portion of the arena. Yaoyorozu is out. The audience cheered as Hatsum raised the Hatsu fist, and saw it crumble to pieces. Well, that took care of that. Guess we got a fight next. Then, Midoriya's form suddenly turned back to his base and the boy collapsed. Izuku. Hatsum crouched down to the boy's chest as Midnight walked up to them. Hearing his heartbeat calmed her down slightly, enough that she didn't notice Midnight confirm the boy couldn't go any further. Midoriya is out. Hatsum raised her head and gasped, instantly realizing what this meant as Midnight grabbed her arm and raised it. Wait, the winner of the sports festival is Mei Hatsum. The audience blew up in ecstatic joy, and as Hatsum scanned her surroundings to see everyone rejoice, she could only say two words with utter disbelief. No way. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.